All right, I show that it is 12 noon on the dot, so we'll go ahead and get started. For today's presentation, we are really grateful that we do have the sponsor partner of Honan Equipment. So I would like to introduce Jonathan Asbury from Honan to say a few words before we get started.
Well, thank you, Becky. I appreciate it. As Becky said, I'm Jonathan Asbury with Honan Equipment. I'm responsible for the paving division here at Honan Equipment, or as we call it, the road building division. We're a dealer for John Deere and Working Group products. Under the Working Group products, there's the Vogela paver brand, Working milling machines, stabilizers, and Hom compaction and Gleeman crushers. So we represent those products through 4 states: Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and Idaho. We have 11 locations within those states, and we have 2 road building specialists and 2 mineral specialists, which are crushing. All of those specialists have over 20 years of experience, and we're here to serve the customer with specialty projects like the one that's going to be talked about today. All of our equipment is IGC ready. We have experience paving TopCon, Trimble, and Leica systems. So we're here to serve you and happy to sponsor today. Thanks for having us.
Great. And so Tom Peterson will do the introduction of our speaker for today and the topic.
Very good. Well, thank you, Becky. Tom Peterson with the Colorado Asphalt Pavement Association. And I too want to thank Honan Equipment for sponsoring. This is our, well, it would have been the 47th, 48th annual conference, and we're not having. But next year when we pick it back up, Honan Equipment will continue to be one of our Black Gold sponsors, which they've been for, I think, since the beginning of the conference. And so, Jonathan, thank you for all that you do, your support of the industry, the conference, and your support of the Asphalt Association. And so we appreciate your sponsorship here today. We're proud of this session that we have each year at the conference. Over the last number of years, we've had a complex project session or track or two. Often Nikki Upright from CDOT will speak and or moderate it. And so one of the projects that we have lined up to present is this one at the US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, which is the home of the Minnesota Vikings. And so on today to present is Sean Block with Park Construction. Sean was intimately involved and integrated within the success of that project. It's been written up in national publications, and it's one of those showcase projects that 20 years from now, if someone asks Sean, what did you ever do in your career? He's going to say, well, I was involved in 1, 2, or 3, but one of them, I would venture to guess, will be the US Bank Stadium. And so, Sean, thank you for presenting today, and we look forward to your session, and welcome to Colorado virtually.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate that introduction. I'll get here and I'll share my screen. All right. So like Tom said, my name is Sean Block. I am our survey and GPS manager at Park Construction. I've been here since 2011. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about 3D paving inside the US Bank Stadium, which is, like he said, the home of the Minnesota Vikings. The 3D paving overview for this project, I'm going to talk about the background of US Bank Stadium, the discussions that we had with Trimble and our Ziegler SciTech dealership, our steps for successful 3D paving the project, hurdles that we faced and how we overcame those, the accuracy and the benefits of doing a 3D paving project. And any questions that you guys have, I will try to answer them as best I can. The background of US Bank Stadium, when the project was originally bid, it was intended to just be a concrete floor like all the other stadiums across the country. But Mortensen had asked for an alternate to do bituminous paving in it to try and help with the cost savings on the project. So we and some other paving contractors in Minnesota gave them proposals, and they accepted ours. In that bid, the tolerances were set to be a 1/4 inch per 10-foot grid, which is fairly typical for tennis courts or other outdoor stadium or outdoor fields and stuff like that asphalt's placed down on. And our plan of attack for that project when we built it was just to set up a 3D total station system, use it on our motor grader, and then just run sonic tracers on the pavers to pave there was an 1.5 inch lift, and then the second lift was also 1.5 inch. And we figured that doing that, we could hit that 1/4 inch per 10-foot grid. In about January of that year, so about 2.5 months prior to us taking our first steps in the stadium, we had a meeting with Mortensen, with the NFL, and with the Minnesota Vikings. They gave us a little tour of the stadium at that portion of the project. Inside that little bowl, at that time, they hadn't even placed gravel in there yet. There was down to the kind of the bedrock limestone. There was water running all over inside the stadium down there. They've got a big drainage system going through there because of the limestone. There was water pouring into it, like little waterfalls all over the place. So there's a lot of water underneath there. But as we were going through the project and what we were going to need, the steps that we were going to need as far as our entry, what street we were going to come in with trucks, we had got to a portion of our meeting talking about the grid and having to just hit that 1/4 inch per 10-foot grid tolerance. And the guy from the NFL wearing a 1980s blue jacket that just had the NFL logo on it, stands up and says, "Your tolerance is 1/8 of an inch for a 10-foot grid." We showed him the spec, we had it there, and he said, "Oh, this is what the spec's saying." And he goes, "I don't care what that says. The NFL expects 1/8 of an inch for all their playing surfaces, and that's what we're going to get." And so as we discussed how we were going to do that, we had mentioned that, well, if we don't hit it, we'll profile it, and if there's areas that we have to grind or patch or do some filling in, we can do that to make sure that we hit your tolerance. And he goes, "No, there's not going to be any grinding, there's not going to be any filling." He goes, "We expect you to get it right, and we expect you to get it right the first time." So at that time, we were kind of like, what are we going to do now? So when we left that meeting, I got together with my Ziegler SciTech dealership, Tom Abel, and I asked him that if we could get together with Trimble and go over some options that we could use to try and hit this tolerance. So we went over, we got the meeting set up with just a phone call with them because they were in California. And we said, this is the first time that we're going to be paving inside of an athletic stadium, and what can we do to make this a successful project? We discussed 3 different options using just laser guided methods, which the accuracy of setting up a laser and putting a laser target on a machine is not very good. You can't work more than a few hundred feet away from it. And then we talked about putting just the UTS on the blade that we're going to do, and then running the sonics. But they said any issues that you have with just grading that gravel, it's going to show up in your pavements. And then the last option there was looking at putting the UTS on the blade and the paver. But again, those tolerances just aren't there to make that eighth of an inch. So Trimble said that they had been using their 3D paving system on some projects. They did a couple of runways on some racetracks on a NASCAR racetrack and some roads out in California, and they had a lot of confidence in the software and their machine equipment. So they said that they would offer to send that support for us when we did our paving projects. So they sent out Mark Delaney and Stephen Kohler, and they came out and helped us with a practice run, and also were there when we did our paving. Mark said that for us to be successful, they wanted to go over several different things that we were going to need to perfect to get our accuracy. So the steps for the success, the first thing is getting good survey control points. With GPS or total station accuracies, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you get bad control points, those inaccuracies are going to carry through in your equipment. So we went down there and to meet with the surveyor and see what they had for control, and they had down on the east end of the project and on the west end, they had a black marker line on the side of the concrete. And they said, well, that's our elevation. That's our 104 elevation for the project. And so I set up an eye level, and I shot one end and turned and shot the other end. And there was already a quarter of an inch error in just those black lines that they had on the wall. And I had mentioned that to Mark, and he said, that's not going to work. You need to get them to set control. So if you can see on the screen there, all the red text with the red triangle going around the perimeter of the field there, they came in, EVS came in, and they set us control points down at the ground level. And so here's just kind of the ground level shot, and along that concrete edge there, they went and put control points for us to do our calibrations to our resections each day. Setting up the motor grader, you can see here, we set up a target on the left side of the blade, excuse me, and we were able to go through and grade our gravel surface right to the model, and we were able to start with a near perfect starting surface. So you see how smooth and flat that is after we rolled it. Like I said, we did a practice run. So the week before we did the actual pavement, Mark and Steven came for a day, and we brought in our paver and we set everything up. They came in and they did a calibration. They did a measure up with a total station to help with the accuracies instead of measuring it with just a tape. And we were able to go through and do some practice runs. So our paving crew, they were a little weary of using the total station and stuff. They were like, well, we use the Sonics. We do good with all that. So we played three runs there, and the first time we ran it with the 3D paving system on the first stretch, and then the next two adjacent runs there, we just used the Sonics, and it looked good. It wasn't too bad, but there was you could see edges and stuff between the two lifts, and then we ended up picking it all back up, pushing that gravel back into a pile, and then we ran a second test run, and we used the 3D paving system for all three passes there, and we were mind blown how nice that gravel even looked. It was really impressive to see, and it kind of gave us some confidence in what we were going to do the next week when we were actually going to start paving. So when we started first, I think we paved on a Tuesday, and we did our non-air course. And you can just see in these pictures, it's a nice smooth mat. Our startups were key. for each run that we did, making sure that we didn't have any seams or lips. So we started putting down a guide system there that you can see sitting on the mat, and that was set right to our thickness of that we had figured that we were going to need for our compaction. So after they rolled over there was no edges, there was no seams, and it made it really nice and smooth. Topoing the surfaces, as we were going along paving, I was walking behind the paver, and I was as built in as we paved before the rollers got on it. And then again, after we were done rolling, after that first day, then I went through and I did an as-built of that non-wear surface. And here's just a picture of me just doing surface checks just to make sure that our slope set for each corner of the screen were on and accurate, and that we were matching our non-wear surface. Here's our as-built surface. So I basically took these, I did like 4 surfaces for each lift as we were paving behind the machine. Eliminating our human error, we did this by using the Trimble Business Center's uncompacted PCS surface. So as you can see in this picture here, the green represents where it's on grade, and the blue is representing spots on the field that were low, that did not hit our first lift. So right here in the dead center of the field at the 50-yard line, there was about a 35-yard to 40-yard run where they were about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch low. I had stepped away for a couple minutes to go use the restroom, and when I came back and was catching up, doing my surface shots behind them, I started noticing that they were getting off, and at that time I was like, hey, we gotta stop. Need to go back and pick all this mat up and relay it down. And our superintendent said, we're not going to go back and pick up 130 feet of material and place that back down. We won't be able to reuse the material because it's already starting to cool down. And Mark said, he goes, Sean, don't worry about it. He goes, I talked to you about it when we're done, but he goes, we'll be able to correct this. Just to kind of recap our steps for success. We had our survey control points, just making sure that you set those control points with total stations, making sure that you get your location set, good perimeters around like a project like this or on a highway project, making sure that you're getting stuff on both sides of the highway every couple 100 feet so that you have multiple places to calibrate to. Doing your machine measure ups using the total station will help increase your accuracy. Like having a good starting surface, so making sure that your gravel surface is accurate, just exponentially increases your accuracy as you start to pave. Running a practice run gave us the confidence in the project. Paving checks, doing our topo surfaces and our slope checks. As built in each surface. Again, here, when we went through and did this, trying to eliminate that human error, as we did that topo as we were paving, we knew we were going to be at, and then when we finished that day, Mark said, go out there and topo it. It's all compacted now. And I went out, did an as-built of the whole field, brought it in, we did that comparison that showed where those elevation changes were, and then we were able to take the pre-compacted surface and then that compacted surface and figure out what our actual compaction factor was. And in Business Center, you can put that compaction factor into the software and then put in your starting surface and then have a final surface that you're going to go to your next surface. And the machine or the software will let the machine know that when it's getting to an area where it needs to put more asphalt in, based on that compaction factor, it will raise the machine up, and it would put in 2.5 inches of mix in that area instead of 1 3/4 inches to compact down. And then when we ran over it with the rollers at the end and compacted everything, it came right out to the elevations that it needed to be. We were very impressed with how their software worked on that. Hurdles faced and how we overcame them during the heat of the battle. Started, like I said before, starting each pad using guide rails that we'd put right underneath the screed to set on. And so when they took off, there was no lips when we would come through and compact that. We had, when I first started at Park, I had an operator tell me that truck drivers are like refrigerators. Once they get in and close the door, the light goes off. And I know that there's a lot of good truck drivers out there, but there are some bad truck drivers. And we had one back into the paver so hard that it pushed it back about 6 or 7 inches, and it knocked the calibration out on the screed, and we had to go and recalibrate it. We started paving, and it was really wacky, and so we picked it up, cleaned up all that asphalt, and then recalibrated the screed, and then took off again. It was probably our second run down the length of the field. I started seeing that the slope between each end of the screed was off. And Mark said, he goes, I don't understand why this has happened. There's got to be something else going on. He's like, once you set that screed and calibrate it, he goes, you should be good the whole rest of the day, and you shouldn't have to be constantly changing it. So I gave him the rover. He was looking at it too, and he's like, yeah, something's not right. When we would shoot and check our slope between the two shots, and we had handed the rover to Jim Lynn from Ziegler, and he was just standing off to the side, and he was just kind of spinning the screen around and rotating the rover, and he noticed that the cut and fill elevation was changing. So we went and set up on a control point quick, and we're facing a total station, and we took a shot, and it checked in, and then we turned the controller 90 degrees, or the rover, we spun it 90 degrees, and we noticed that it was about 300ths off. And then we rotated it another 90 degrees, and then we noticed it was like 600ths off on that control point. And Jim thought, he goes, well, I think there's something wrong with the prism. So he ran back over the case and actually had an extra prism with, and we put that on, and then we never had any issues with that the rest of the day or even on the wear course. In that middle of the field, like I said, that the screed, we had a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inches low. That time that I ran away to go use the restroom, our screed operator, Cuz, he was always checking the thickness of the mat like he usually does when he does a road or a parking lot. And he went over and started accidentally manually adjusting his heights, and instead of letting the 3D system control it. And he actually dug into the gravel, and that's what pulled the screed down and kind of started sucking the screed down. And there was a big long groove off to the side of that run that tore up the gravel and was helped cause that 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch low pass there. And then Mark had us put everything into that business center program to help fix that area and any other low spots that we had in the field. The morning of our final lift, I got there around 5 a.m. and was getting everything set up, and I could not get connected to the controller. Ziegler, Jim Lynn was there, and he was like, we just used it 2 days ago because we had a day in between there. But we actually even used it that day before, because that's when I did the as-built of the non-wear course, and it just would not connect. And he went through and he uninstalled all the software on the controller, reinstalled it, it still wasn't working. And so around 6 o'clock, he started making some phone calls, and they had a guy that was taking a total station down to Farmington, which is about 45 minutes away from Minneapolis. And they were going to go do a demo. And he said, I need you to come here right now. Well, it's rush hour time. And it's getting closer to 7 o'clock when the trucks were going to start showing up the asphalt. And I was getting pretty stressed out. And our paving superintendent, Paul Pleasy, said, he goes, Sean, don't worry about it. This stuff happens all the time with paving. He said, but most of the time it's the plant breaking down. So we had a good chuckle out of that. And a little after 7 o'clock, one of the Ziegler guys showed up with that other unit. And the first thing that we did was just switch the antennas. I put the other antenna on and it connected right away. And we were able to go get calibrated in, with the machine calibrated in, and we started paving that day. About halfway through that day, we started having the slopes not matching again. And this time we knew that the prism was good on the rover, and we ended up finding out that our slope sensor went bad for whatever reason. And it was just lucky enough that one of the Ziegler mechanics had that right equipment on hand, and within about 10 minutes he switched out that slope sensor. We recalibrated the machine, and we continued on without any more problems that day. Here's just a time lapse of the project. And this is us paving the workhorse here, the final lift. We had, throughout this whole entire process, we had Caterpillar dealership guys came up to help us with the paver. We had the Trimble guys there, and then our Cat dealership, Ziegler. The support that these guys had for us on this project was awesome.
Hey, Sean, this is Tom.
Yeah.
Quick question here.
Okay.
How did you decide if you were paving, I don't know, north to south or east to west? How did that, was there any rhyme or reason to the kind of the layout that you had here?
We started on the west side. So if you can see through the glass windows there, that's downtown Minneapolis there. That's the west side of the stadium there. There's only one entrance in, which is on the east side there. So we started everything down on that west end. We did 2 passes down there, the width of the field, and then we went to the north edge and then started paving all the way across. And then we left ourselves short just a couple passes down at the end there, but then we turned and started at the north and went south, and then we jumped to the south edge and then paved north so that we could run right outside that tunnel with the equipment when we were done.
Thank you.
Yep. The accuracy and the benefits to come from 3D paving. This was just when we got done with the gravel surface. And had I known to do a topo of the asphalt, or do an asphalt surface of this gravel, like we did with that first lift, we could have used this with the Trimble Business Center uncompacted surface as well. We could have incorporated this topo with the where we wanted that first lift to be at, and we probably would have had a better non-workhorse paved. And if you guys can see, I painted the logo right out on the center of the field out there, and just because I had it in the controller and stuff. And that's exactly where the logo is now on the field as well. Here's our final as-built surface shots. If you can see some of the elevations in between here, you're 0.008, and right next to it you're 0.001, so you're 7 thousandths off or 3 thousandths off. The accuracy of this this system was just simply amazing. the smoothness of it, and I don't know if it had to do with the mix and stuff as well, but it was one of the nicest looking mats I've ever seen. We only had 2 seams in the entire thing. We had one down at the west end where we started and paved those 2 runs to then feed off of and head to the east. And then our last pass running out, we had 1 seam there. Here's just once we finished that night, we were just rolling. I went down, I just set my phone down and took a picture. I couldn't believe how nice it looked. And like I said, there's no seams anywhere between any run. One of the only seams that we did have here, this was the Kiefer was the contractor that brought the field turf in, and he came out there and ran around, and he was only out there for about 5 minutes with his straight edge, and he was running down this seam trying to find a spot where he could get it to tip on it, and he couldn't find it anywhere. And after 5 or 10 minutes of kicking his straight edge around, he was like, I've never seen anything this nice before. He said the stadium that they had just done in New York at that time at the Giants Stadium, like the year before, he said they actually came in and did like a rubber, they did concrete, and then they put a rubber mat down that they kind of paved out there on that. And he said it was just terrible how uneven and stuff that was. He said they were mind blown on how nice this surface was, and they were so happy to be able to start with this when they put down their turf. The benefits of using the 3D surf or 3D paving system, we didn't have any rework. There was no surface grinding, no fill-in materials. We didn't have to incur any cost for any of that. We didn't have to run string lines for anything. You have a reduced labor cost in that. You can pave accurate thicknesses so that you don't overrun and mix. You can accurately pave super elevations and cross slopes on your roadways, which can ultimately increase the safety of the roadway, making sure that each one of you and your family and your friends are always making it home safe at the end of the day. Ride specs, different states have ride specs. These could benefit up to $300 per mile per lane and not have any type of deductions that you have to pay back to the state. You can eliminate road chatter, make a smoother road, smoother ride, increase fuel mileage, pave America great again. And here is a little video that we had done that Caterpillar put together.
US Bank Stadium was unique. We were doing something that nobody in the industry has done before, putting an asphalt layer down underneath the athletic field.
My name is Jeff Carlson. I'm president and CEO of Park Construction Company. We thought this would be a good project for us. There's very tight specifications on the job, and we had some concerns, but I told myself, we have good crews and we have good equipment that we buy with Caterpillar. If we can't do this, we might as well close the doors.
What we do for dirt work and what we just did for the paving are pretty extreme. We're within 0.08 or 1 inch for dirt work, and on this project with paving, we're down to millimeter accuracy and under 1/8 of an inch.
3D paving, not only the quality, but the time in and of itself, absolutely moved the project along.
The paving at the Viking Stadium went off perfectly without any safety issues between any one of our team members. Park, Caterpillar, Trimble, we all provided a safe working environment for each other and looked out for each other.
Mark explained to us how the 3D paving system Trimble has works with the business center program, that he's able to take the base course as built and then take our final surface and use those two together, and it'll actually let the machine know if there's high or low spots. As you're paving along, you're coming up to a low spot, it'll know to adjust and add more asphalt into that area so that when it compacts down, you're at your right elevation.
As we were paving the second day and final lift, I had conversations with our owner, Jeff Carlson, and I stated to him that I can't see how we could possibly do any better than what we did here.
I'm proud of my team and the accomplishments they've made with this project, and the support that we received from Caterpillar, Trimble, and Ziegler were second to none. I mean, they were there for us the whole time.
So that was our project. You can see there at the end of the video, we paved with no lights basically the last couple hours. When the last person from Mortensen left, they shut the lights off and we couldn't get a hold of anyone, and we all they kind of had were safety lights on in the inner hole there. So that's why it was so dark in there. But Tom, that's the project, and if anyone has any questions, I can try and answer them as best I can.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sean. I'll have a couple here. We'll keep an eye on the chat window. But I guess maybe to lead off, why were you paving at night, or I saw some night paving, or what was the reasoning behind that?
You were breaking up on me, Tom.
Just the night paving. Why were you paving at night or during the dark?
We started that was on that day, we started about 7:30, 7:45 in the morning, and just the speed we were paving on the trucks that we were trying to get from Burnsville into downtown Minneapolis and stuff during that day through traffic and everything like that. We kind of paved at a little bit of a slower rate, I would say, that day than we did in the non-work, because we probably finished in 10 or 11 hours that first day, but we paved till about 10:30 at night. So from like 7:30 in the morning to 10:30 at night. And at about 6:30 or 7 o'clock, when all the crews and everything left that night, all the lights in the whole stadium went off. and we couldn't get anyone to turn the lights back on. So it wasn't like we paved in the 3 or 4 in the morning or anything, but it was kind of just the speed we were paving that day, and I think it ultimately helped in how nice and smooth the surface was as well.
Nice. Can you speak to your contract to meet those tight specs? Were there incentives to meet the quality levels, or was there incentive, disincentive in terms of quality levels with respect to materials and or construction quality?
They did not have any incentives on it. It was just a spec that the NFL said that you need to hit this. You're not going to make any extra money on it or anything like that. Or I guess the only disincentive would be if we would have failed on something, we might have had to have gone out and saw cut areas or grind them down and see what they would accept at that time. But on this project, there was no incentives.
Okay, I have one last question, and it's come up on the chat, and we'll open up any other questions that anyone has. But can you speak to the type of mix used? Was it pervious asphalt? Apparently, when attendees said we paved under the AstroTurf in the Cincinnati Stadium back in 1990, impervious pavement was specified. But could you speak to the type of mix and the grade of the rock and or the liquid asphalt?
I do not have those in front of me. I don't remember what it wasn't. A pervious. It was an impervious. It was a highway mix. From what I remember that we used. I don't remember the size of the aggregate though. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Any other questions? If you have one, mute or put it in the chat window. It looks like a pretty tightly, tight mix there in terms of what you're showing here.
Yeah, it was. There was such a smooth surface. There was so many. There were not very many voids or anything like that. When you looked at that surface, it was simply amazing. I've never seen anything look like that before from anything that I've ever seen paved outside.
Could you speak to, such a unique, high-profile, kind of celebrity-type project from a safety standpoint for keeping all of the visitors over in the bleachers, if you will? How did you address that?
Well, Martinson they are very conscious of safety, and so they went over with us each and every day when we came in, what they expected from us, and we correlated that to just teaching our operators, telling Ziegler, telling Caterpillar, telling Trimble what they'd expect, their hard hats, glasses, vest, and then just keeping everyone conscious of where the trucks were coming in so that no one was ever in the pass of anybody, and everybody just looked out for each other and made sure that everything was going to go smoothly on this project so that there were no issues and no injuries.
It looked like the people in the paving crew had communication systems, or if you will, the portable walkie-talkies, or whatever we call them.
Yeah, they have a walkie-talkie or a CD radio and stuff on their equipment that they can communicate to each other with.
Nice. Any other questions that anyone has put in the chat window, or we'll open up at this point? Yes, one question, Sean. Does it make you feel bad that you have such a beautiful paving surface, but often the Vikings play less than superb?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I'm a huge Vikings fan. I actually have season tickets and stuff, so it's it done okay, but it is sad when they have bad seasons like they did last year. I was there for the Miracle, Minneapolis Miracle and stuff. So that was a very good memory of the stadium. That people stayed in there for 30, 45 minutes after that game. Everyone just couldn't believe it that no one would leave the stadium. It was pretty unreal.
That's great. But have you guys had any projects where you've used system or the 3D paving since the US Bank or?
We have not. We are starting to do, if anyone's used it yet, some contractors, they've been using MOBA for their thermal paving and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys require that out in Colorado or not, but that's kind of what everyone here in Minnesota is using these last few years for MnDOT. And this last season, we actually bought a Trimble thermal camera. And if anyone's looking at getting that system on their machines, reach out to your SciTech dealerships. It's a phenomenal setup, and it does a really good job. And we're very happy with that Trimble thermal camera. But no, we haven't had an opportunity to do 3D paving again on a project, so it'd be nice to. I know MnDOT, they've been pushing more, doing the IC and the thermal stuff, and they're not really pushing on doing the 3D paving. They've had some companies do 3D milling here, and then just use their signups and stuff like that. So there's a couple contractors here in Minnesota that have been doing the 3D milling, and that seems to be working out pretty well.
Good. Well, we're coming near the end. If anyone has any questions, we'll open up here. Or keep an eye on the chat window. Are there any questions for Sean? One final question, very technical. They let you get in the locker rooms and look around a little bit or not?
Oh yeah, we got to tour every inch of that stadium. Got to go in the locker rooms early when they weren't finished, and then once they were done, got to go in there as well. On the south side of the stadium, on the home field side, they have like a 2-story suite, restaurants and stuff, and then you can go in there. Those people that sit on the south side in the lower section, they have access into that like bar area, and it's the length of the entire field, and it's probably 30 yards deep in there, and there's bars and different food places in there and stuff that's all included in their ticket prices. They got hibachi and it's pretty amazing. On the north side, they have a Buffalo Wild Wings bar that have chicken wings and stuff like that at. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, Sean, thank you for your presentation. Boy, meat and potatoes with respect to advanced or complex paving. And we will be posting your presentation on the conference website for those who may not have been able to join us here today. And we thank you and for your presentation. Again, we thank Hanan Equipment for being our sponsor and all the support that we've had from Hanan, and they're familiar with the 3D printing and advanced technology here in Colorado. So thanks again to Jonathan Asbury for their support here today, and as always, with respect to our conference. As we wrap up next week, March 18th, our webinar will be Work Zone Safety Automated Flagger, led by Mint Hitchcock with Colorado Barricade. So again, Sean, thank you. And we thank Hanan Equipment. And Becky, I don't know if you have any concluding comments to make, or are we all good? And we thank our attendees here today.
Yep, just another thank you, Sean. That was amazing, and I'll never look at a Vikings game again the same way. We only have 2 more weeks of these virtual presentations, so we do have the Work Zone Safety next week, and then compaction, we're bringing back Dale Starry out of retirement just for us. So a couple of great presentations, and then we will do our asphalt appreciation days, which are April 30th at Bandimere Speedway and May 5th at Mesa County Fairgrounds. Again, everybody, please be safe. We've got a big weekend ahead of us with snow, so I know a lot of you are going to be very busy, and we appreciate everything that you do.
Well, thank you very much, Becky. Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We will be
Yeah,
talking
thank
soon, I'm
you,
sure.
Sean. Good job. And we appreciate your support of us here in Colorado.
All right, Skull Vikings.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll see.
Yeah, the Vikings against the Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Yep. Should have happened in 97.
There you go.
All right.
Everyone
Thank
stay
you.
safe.
Thanks again, Sean.
Bye.
Yeah, appreciate everyone. And that concludes our webinar, and hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.